Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching Business Incorporated. We're coming to you from Channels Television Global Headquarters. Okay, now, U.S. prosecutors said that a third party had presented a possible method for opening an encrypted iPhone used by one of the San Bernardino shooters, a development that could bring an abrupt end to the high-stakes legal showdown between the government and Apple Incorporated. A federal judge in Riverside, California, late Monday agreed to the government's request to postpone a hearing scheduled for Tuesday so that prosecutors could try the newly discovered technique. The government had insisted until Monday that it had no way to access the phone used by Rizwan Farouk, one of the two killers in the December massacre in San Bernardino, California, except to force Apple to write new software that would disable the password protection.
We built the iPhone for you, our customers, and we know that it is a deeply personal device. For many of us, the iPhone is an extension of ourselves. About a month ago, we asked Americans across the country to join in a conversation. We need to decide as a nation how much power the government should have over our data and over our privacy. I've been humbled and deeply grateful for the outpouring of support that we've received from Americans across the country, from all walks of life. We did not expect to be in this position at odds with our own government, but we believe strongly that we have a responsibility to help you protect your data and protect your privacy. We owe it to our customers and we owe it to our country. This is an issue that impacts all of us, and we will not shrink from this responsibility.
And the annual Africa CEO Forum, which opened in Abidjan, the capital of Côte d'Ivoire, will come to a close today. This year's theme is New Realities, New Priorities. It is organized by Groupe Jeune Afrique in partnership with the African Development Bank and Rainbow Unlimited. Speakers put the spotlight on Africa's economic and security challenges, emphasizing on its resilience despite global commodity shocks. The continent recorded a 4% growth in 2015. Two new initiatives were also announced at the forum. Now, the Africa CEO Network, which seeks to bolster continuity for the forum all year round, and the Women in Business Initiative, geared towards the promotion of the role of women in business.
Leaders and chief executives of African companies gracing the 2016 CEO's Forum. Gathering here in Abidjan, their intention is to brainstorm on something different for the growth of African economy, which has largely been depressed by the crash of commodities prices with negative impact on currencies. The plenary begins with the President of Côte d'Ivoire, Mr. Alassane Ouattara, who is glad to receive delegates attending the forum despite the recent terror attack in the country. Addressing some of the socio-economic challenges in the continent, President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, presents a 5-point agenda as a response to the lapses.
The African Development Bank has now raised the bar on its level of ambition for Africa. We call them high fives for Africa. Light up and power Africa. Feed Africa. Industrialize Africa. Integrate Africa. And improve the quality of life for Africans.
This panel comprises government leaders and top executives. The discussants dwell more on regional integration and the industrialization of Africa.
98 to 99% of the milk we use in Nigeria is imported. How can you keep importing all these things? I mean, wheat, we import wheat. 100%. So in Africa, what we need to do is actually to even try and, first of all, be self-sufficient and go for massive industrialization.
The future is in us unlocking the market that exists in Africa. And for those of us who are policymakers, we must invest in developing the products.
We really do need to work collectively, not to isolate ourselves from the rest of the world, to participate in the global economy, but as well as that, and I fully agree with everything the panel said, drive regional and continental trade.
The Africa CEO Forum is a two-day event attracting several investors amidst heavy security against terror attacks. As various panels unfold, expectations are high. CEOs are generally tired about the much talk about the development of the African economy. What they want to see more is more of action. Top executives attending the 2016 Africa CEO Forum have an expectation, and that expectation is to go away with result-oriented discussions. From the venue of the forum in Abidjan, Temple Ashaju, Channels Television News.
And the Kenyan and Ugandan presidents held talks on Monday about which route to choose for an oil export pipeline that Kenya wants to go through its territory rather than neighboring Tanzania, but discussions did not reach any final deal. Landlocked Uganda, which like Kenya has oil field, it is seeking to develop, has sent conflicting signals about its preferred route, which needs to be confirmed and evaluated for energy companies to decide on commercial production. Last year, Uganda's Yoweri Museveni and Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta made a joint call to implement a pipeline through Kenya without further delay. Now, Uganda said it planned to build a pipeline through Tanzania instead by bypassing Kenya. Now, in a statement after Monday's talks in Nairobi, Uganda and Kenya said they would meet again in 2 weeks in Kampala, giving the technical teams time to assess the two routes and factors such as which is cheaper and easier to build. And close to 19 million South Africans use minibus taxis every day, even as most people describe them as dangerous and unreliable mode of public transport. The industry is worth $2.6 billion with a valuable contribution to the country's struggling economy. But while this figure sounds impressive, analysts say because the business is so unregulated, it is difficult to track the revenue.
Milton Dube has been driving a minibus taxi in Johannesburg for the last 15 years. In an industry associated with chaos and reckless driving, Milton says his reputation is clean.
This
is what I call my office. It's taxi. This is what puts food on the table, what sustains my children. My whole life is dependent on this office. The only thing I am missing is a pencil. But in short, what I can say is this job that we do requires one to be focused.
Taxi terminals are usually crowded and often rowdy, but passengers wait their turn and vehicles are boarded in queues. The industry is estimated to be worth 40 billion rand and employs close to 1 million people.
Taxi bosses are like racketeering landlords. With due respect to them, they don't have a great deal to do with the day-to-day reality of their customers. They're concerned only with the revenue coming in from day to day, and it's mostly a cash revenue that's not very easy to not account for. And this leads to the problem of an industry where it appears that there's a lot of money and not a lot of accountability.
Taxi owners are often reluctant to speak about exactly how much money they make or how many taxis they own, because they say it makes them targets for rival taxi associations and even their own workers.
It will differ from one person to another. The more you buy vehicles, the more you have more revenue, the more you have more income, and again, at the same time, the more you have expenses. And in terms of the driver's payment, we pay our drivers 20% of the turnover that they've brought.
They want to see more order in the business that is South Africa's most popular mode of transport, and officials at the SA Taxi Association say that could only be the start of transformation for the industry.
Currently, the minibus taxis are accounting for about 68.8% of land-based transport, which means they are bigger than the buses and the trains put together. The industry transports on a day an average of about 19 million passengers. So it is a very sustainable industry, but also has a huge impact into the South African economy as well as the local communities.
Efficient transport systems could save the world's urban cities up to $17 trillion by the year 2050, and that's according to a report by a project called New Climate Economy that investigates how countries can grow while combating climate change.
Okay, let's take you back to the Africa CEO Forum that is closing today in Abidjan, the capital of Cote d'Ivoire. Our business correspondent, Temple Ashajo, is there covering the event, and it joins me now to discuss the take-home package, if I may call it take-home package, of the CEOs that attended that meeting. Hello, Temple.
Hello, Balaji. Good to join you again.
Good afternoon. Now, I know that you're getting set to pack your bags and baggages and move to the airport. But before you just do that, tell us what were the final moments of this meeting?
Like Balaji, leaders and policymakers, captains of industries gathered here again for the last day of the program, the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan. And so far, there's been 3 sessions, 3 panel discussions this morning. The first one focused on leadership in a challenging world, and we had the second one which focused on harnessing local capital for financing in Africa. The current one ongoing is the presidential session, and we got the president of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, as well as the president of Cote d'Ivoire, His Excellency Alassane Dramane Ouattara, currently in a session discussing policies on how Africa can be moved forward. But of course, you know I'm out of that session just to make this come through. However, on the first and second sessions this morning, we had the leadership in a challenging world where the likes of Obao Tudeko, the chairman of Honeywell Group in Nigeria, made a very certain point with regard to leadership. He spoke on the fact that it is high time leaders in Africa leverage on the young ones, the youth, as well as women, bringing them on board the companies, bringing them, integrating their knowledge, their skills in the development of businesses in Africa. He also talked just like other people in that panel, spoke basically on how shareholders have a say in companies, how shareholders should also leverage annual general meetings to correct the wrongs on the boards of companies, as well as corporate governance, to see how corporate governance can be well integrated, entrenched in companies, in the running of
Temple.
Companies of peers.
Thank you so much for your insight. Temple Ashajo is China's business correspondent reporting from the venue of the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan. We're going to break now. We'll be right back.